My name is Lungelo Ngwenya. Welcome to Podcast Affirmation. We are sitting with Dr. Makhosi Khoza, the well-known and radical remedial doctor who stands against who stands for, not against, rooting out all corruption. Welcome to Podcast Affirmation.
Thank you very much, Mtimande. I'm pleased to be with you.
It's you have a very long and impressive resume. Ngingabe ngimengase ngithi ngiyaqala kungakuningi kakhulu engikushiya ngaphandle. Ngokwakho ubani udokotela Makhosi Khoza ngaphandle kwentombi ezalelwe yakhulele eMaritzburg. Secretary by the age of 12 and at 13 you were imprisoned. Cela usitshele kabanzi mama.
Well, uMakhosi Khoza umntwana okhuliso ugogo kakhulu. Ugogo uMamzobe, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. She was blind but very, very full of wisdom. She knew a lot of history about Africa. And the stories that she told me about the Kush civilization and how it fell apart, I think they kind of molded my moral character and my stand of not trading off my principles. I don't trade off my principles. I can change a tactic, I can retreat, but I don't change my principles. So this is who I am. I grew up in Maritzburg and in a place called Haywood, dusty streets of Haywood. And I now live in Hillcrest. And I hold a doctoral degree in total quality management systems. And that's who I am in a nutshell. I've been in politics, I've been battered, bruttered, whatever, peanut buttered, jammed, and what have you, in politics. And but I'm still here because I have my principles and my truth that I own, and I'm so jealous of it. I can't trade it off, and that is why I'm still standing.
Thank you very much. Do you see a problem, maybe a comeback within the political space?
Frankly,
in the foreseeable future?
I don't at the moment, given the fact that I'm now very much involved in the education space. And the current project, it's a huge project that I'm working with currently, and the King has endorsed it. And that is using isiZulu to demystify mathematics. And it's a project that is so dear to my heart. I can't trade it off with anything. And when I start talking about it, I go crazy when I tell people that Shia Galombili is X minus 2 equal Y. People say, what? And I said, but what is minus? What is Shia? What is Ugalo? Because Galo stands for your X. And what is Mbilingo? Because it's 2. And people are actually very shocked to understand that isiZulu is an algebraic expression. The entire isiZulu language is that. And that's the project I'm working with. And fortunately, the King has actually endorsed it. And I'm very excited.
And all of this is covered in your book, Uzalo.
My book is covered. It's covered in the book Uzalo. There is a new book that is coming. Hopefully, it will be launched. It will be launched on the 27th of April, 2023, which is entitled isiZulu Mathematical Genius: Science, Synchronicity, and Mystery. Well, the big project that I'm currently working on is the one which uses isiZulu to demystify mathematics. And the King has now endorsed the project, and I was very thrilled. I mean, he not only did he welcome me to the palace, but he also actually wrote a letter to endorse the project. And when I tell people that actually isiZulu is mathematics, and I tell them as an example that their number for 8 is X minus 2, equal Y. People say, what? Are you going crazy? And I said, but the name is self-explanatory. Shia means minus. Galo is a symbolic or abstract language standing for X, and Y is unspecified, but 2 is specified, which is why it is X minus 2 equal Y. So I'm very excited about this project because I do believe that our children are going to become mathematical geniuses.
It's lovely to hear, Mama. Speaking of the educational space and working closely with Makhosi, do you feel I know that you are an advocate for abantu besifazane and youth, and njengoba kade usho ukuthi usebenza kakhulu nabantu abasha and in the educational space. Do you feel that maybe kufocuswe kakhulu in agenda yabantu besifazane more than abantu besilisa?
Frankly, I do think that we are living in a patriarchal system, even in politics, by the way. Even though initially the ruling party started off very well, but we are seeing the decline in terms of them addressing the gender question. And when it comes to Makhosi, that system is not going to reform very easily because by its very nature, it's blood relatives that have to get into the throne. You are born into the position, you are not made into the position. Yes. So it's going to be a very difficult space. However, I do think though that said, we have a very interesting history as the Zulus, because we have matriarchs that were able to make it. We are talking about Mkabayi Chama. You cannot talk about the rise of the Zulu kingdom without mentioning Mkabayi Chama, without mentioning even Princess Nandi. You also can't, Queen Nandi, you also can't even talk about even Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi without mentioning Princess Makoko. So we really have a very, very strong woman tradition in KwaZulu-Natal. And it even speaks, it plays itself out even in the political space, because the prominent women that tend to be, to be prominent in South Africa. By the way, I don't know if you actually look at it and you realize that my babu, they are actually coming from KwaZulu-Natal, most of them. Whether it's Khoza Zuma, whether it's Zanele Makwaza Msibi, whether it's Lindwe Mazibulko, whether it's whoever, they groundbreakers. They tend to shake spaces where they go, and I think it's something that we don't celebrate.
Which is also a space that you are known for, to also share with amongst them as well.
Actually, my mom is coming from that Zwide Kalanga's clan. In fact, my mother is Ntombaz, was even named after the mother of King Zwide Kalanga. So my mother is in Ngumalo. So yes, I do think that it actually rubs off. I carry it in my DNA. This fighting spirit, man, it doesn't go away. It's there.
So having touched on radical women, do you think in the history of our political stance and as a country as a whole, do you believe that currently females are well represented in the political space, both nationally and provincially?
Definitely the representation of women politically is better than yesteryear. By yesteryear, I'm talking about during the colonial and apartheid era. When we look at where we are now, we have increased the quantity. Now we need to focus on the quality. We have the numbers, yes, but even though they are not where they should be, because if we are going to go by demographics, women should be more than 50%, because we hold half the South African sky. But we are not yet there. But those numbers that we already have, we need to start building quality around that. I think women tend to be intimidated easily because they have children, they carry the burden of being child bearers more than men. Hence, when the field of politics starts becoming bloody, like it has become in KwaZulu-Natal, women tend to take a back seat instead of taking the front seat.
So, from your perspective, do you feel that we are moving backwards with time in terms of women?
I do think that we are definitely looking at the quantity, and both quantity and quality. I think we are declining.
There was having asked this question of gender spectrums within the political space. I am really eager to actually ask this very next question, where a statement was given by IFP saying that our current premier is just a stooge and a front and a puppet. What do you have to say about that?
I would actually protect women. I don't attack women easily. And the reason for that is because, patriarchy by its nature always weaponize us against each other as women. So I wouldn't want to get into that space, and I disagree with the leader of the IFP. I do believe that probably we can say her willpower now has declined. I used to work very closely with Nomsa Dube.
Yes.
We used to be friends, actually. But obviously, as time goes on, we ended up, the gap just kept on widening. But I do know that she's a very brilliant lady. And I do think that if given a space and given, being resolute about where she stands in terms of principles and where she wants to take the province to, she can do it if she has sufficient support. I do believe that she can.
So in essence, you are saying that to some degree she has been muted or toned down.
To some degree, yes. To some degree, knowing her and in understanding her. Remember that the whole local government sphere, the whole thing, even the drafting of the legislation and what have you, Nomusa, we were in the forefront of that. Nomusa was there.
Yes.
And leading to me becoming the deputy mayor of Pietermaritzburg, and then she became the mayor of one of the, when Itegwini still had about seven sub-regions, and she was a mayor in one of those local councils. And I do have memory of her really going for it when she was presented with the space and the opportunity to fight for the right thing.
So in the country, history tends to repeat itself. So over and over again, we see different political parties coming up and having the narrative of pointing out what the leading party may be at that time is doing wrong. Do you feel as if that's the right train of thought, or should they be leading by example in being advocates of change prior to them being voted for?
You are asking that question to the right person. I'm bruised. I'm from that political space. I also once adopted the attitude of saying the ruling party is wrong, and I pointed everything out that was wrong about the ruling party. But I do think, and I thank Mashaba for that, for firing me as a leader of Action SA, because he actually gave me space to reflect and to retreat from politics and to start looking at things differently. Part of the problem we have in this country is that we are not making the correct diagnosis of the problem, the root cause of the problem. What do I mean about that? Even the ruling party, everybody is guilty of that. For example, we are now looking at corruption as if it's something that was invented by the ANC. Corruption was not invented by the ANC. The Nationalist Party government was inherently corrupt. The very colonial system was inherently corrupt. You are from Pietermaritzburg. Yes. You will recall the time under apartheid when millions of rands were wasted. They built toilets around Azalea. They were in all the mountains where people were not there. That was a way of eating out the money. But somehow we have sanitized the colonial and apartheid regimes. And again, you must remember, the very system of Bantu education was designed such that the few that will manage to get to the position of power will become inherently corrupt, because it's so complicated. You're moving from a system that was the only system, point of reference that we have, the experience that we have is that of being governed by Makhosi. Now you are moving into this system that recognizes three arms of the state, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. But you are leaving out this very important arm that was doing everything, which is the traditional leadership system that we had. So you're getting in there, you want to be clever with that system. It's going to knock you out. It's going to swallow you like the vortex. You're going to become inherently corrupt if you are not strong morally. So I am saying that system by its nature does compromise people, land them into that system where you think it's better to be, you have to become izimtiti. This thing, elitism, was always promoted by the system. In fact, even those who revolted against the colonial system were called amanqaba, and abelungu eventually it evolved to become amaqaba. But those were people who were nonconformists, who were saying this system is going to destroy us. To me, those are the people who have the correct philosophical quest of us as Bantu people, because they understood that the system that we're getting swallowed by is a system that is inherently corrupt, that is going to turn us into self-destructing machines.
That is a big pill to swallow. And as a former member of parliament, you did mention that you're working quite closely with Makhosi too.
Yes.
At the moment. Do you see that at some point these two systems zikwazi ukusebenzisana?
They need the courage. To be honest with you, now that I have reflected, I feel that Makhosi, we must remember, let's give a bit of history. I'm so sorry about time, but a bit of history. You must remember that Makhosi were in the forefront of fighting colonialism and apartheid system. And even the chapter 12 in the constitution that we have today that recognizes Makhosi would not be there if Umntwana kaPhindangene did not fight for it to be included in the constitution. In fact, those people who fought, who were in the forefront, I'm talking about Bambatha Kamancinza, 1906, the Bambatha Rebellion. I'm even talking about King Cetshwayo, himself, who was in Robben Island, by the way. He was the first Robben Islander. I'm talking about even, you can talk about, this chief, Inkosi, Maskofini Dlamini, and he was hanged in Pietermaritzburg. And very few people know that. He was hanged there. In fact, when he was supposed to be hanged, they called a priest to come and to say to him, he must change, he must denounce his name and become Joseph. And he refused. And he was hanged in Maritzburg at the old prison. Now, I am saying they were in the forefront, but when we came into power, we forgot about Makhosi. And so we are not aligned, because since the same thing that is isiZulu isho yethi oyishayila kayidli oyishayila kayidli oyidlile udli oyosile uyedla icala lo edlile udla icala. We are going in that trend, because exactly what we are doing now is that we are leaving out Makhosi. We've generalized Makhosi. Take, for example, here in KwaZulu-Natal. I don't care how you want to put it. The truth is, whereas the king is supposed opens parliament, and we are a provincial monarchy,
yes,
as KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes.
I mean, we have the largest concentration of Makhosi. We have over 300 out of 500 Makhosi in South Africa. And we call our Isilo Samabandla, because the Zulus are not a tribe, they are a nation. You are calling Isilo Samabandla, the kings of kings in English, because these are not traditional leaders as white people want us to believe. Those people were Makhosi. It was King Shaka who persuaded them, and he's saying, listen, the threat of these people that have come here require us to unite and build a big nation. In fact, he wanted to be the nation state. And that is why Zulus are not a tribe, they are a nation, because you have a conglomeration of different ethnic groups under Ubukhosi bakwaZulu. So I am basically saying to you, we are now living out those kinds of projects of making sure that we unite as Black Africans and so forth, and we are leaving the custodians of even our languages, because Makhosi, they have a very key role to play. And I think the fact that we've generalized them, if you look at Isilo Samabandla, if you look at even their own pay parity between the premier and the Isilo Samabandla, actually, Isilo is junior to the premier in practice.
In practice.
In practice. Similarly, even with Makhosi, the mayors and even councillors, they are senior if you look at the powers that they have and their representation, the voice they have in terms of making decisions. So we do need in South Africa to think about a system that is going to be a hybrid system, that's going to have the Western system, which is the current system, which is 100% the three arms of state, and have this other system as well, coexisting at a same level. Because let's face it, as Abantu, our level of development, we have over 300 years to catch up to. And the reality is that if you are born yesterday, you can't walk today. And we've only been in power for only 30 years. If you think of the fact that from 1652 to 1994, that's over 340 years. That 340 years, we have not done anything to address the challenges, the problems that happened during that time. And again, even the way we address the whole thing of land restitution. When the white people came here, we had no title deeds. And I'm having a problem with this thing of saying you can only claim land back if you have a title deed as proof. Somebody steal your land, then he creates a document called the title deed. Then he then says to you, prove your ownership of land. How do you prove it? Because we communally owned the land, and Makhosi we're trustees of our land. So I'm basically saying to you, there's something fundamentally wrong at conceptual level about the diagnosis of the problem. What is the root cause of the problem? Why have we tried to do this land, to address the land question? Why has it failed? It's because we are using the wrong method. You are using the wrong method that is going to favor the few that happen to have been assimilated by the white regime into getting title deeds. I'm from Pietermaritzburg, and who are those people? Amazimtit. In other words, we are leaving out everybody else out from the pie. They're exempted, by the way. That's where the term Zimtiti comes from. It's the people who were exempted. Exempted by who? By the colonial and apartheid regime. They could drink bona isminof when you could only drink umqombuthi barin. So I'm saying to you, you are talking about that. So those are fundamental things that we can do. In short, these two systems can't coexist, because we can't lie. The reality is that we are living in a high-tech world. We have to play catch-up. But as we play catch-up, we can't then elevate this system, the Western system, above the system of the over 80% of the population. Of who we are. And that is why we are getting things wrong, because the united minority, let me repeat it. The united minority is now governing this country because the majority is divided. And those are the black people, the Bantus in particular, who were subjected to Bantu Education Act, Bantu Administration Act of 1927, the Land Act of 1913 and 1936. Those, the Bantus, the Bantu-speaking people who make 80% of the population in this country, they are linguistically excluded. Go and buy Disprin now. I tell you, you will find English and Afrikaans, even when it comes to the dosage of and the side effects of that medication. What does that mean? It means if you are black, your life does not matter. You can take this thing and die. But if you are English or Afrikaans, and who are English and Afrikaans, and by the way, Afrikaans is just a glorified Dutch. That's a dialect of Dutch. That's what they are. But they've claimed that African space to call their language Afrikaans. It's actually Dutch. Yes. Just a modified, the South African Dutch. The same way as you will have New Zealand English or Australian English, or have Canadian English that is different from British English, or American English that is different from British English. That's what you have.
Sike sezwa ubaba uMtolo this past Sunday kuxolisela kuwona Makhosi on something that had gone viral. You had called Makhosi ichashalala ebese ixolisela ngaloko ethi someone of your sound mind would never say something like that. What do you have to say about that statement?
Who called Makhosi ichashalala?
It was in that statement that you had said Makhosi are not respected.
That Makhosi are not respected.
Yes.
Yes, I had said that in the interview that I had with Qilani Skakane.
Yes.
Yes, I did say that. And what is your question?
So
because
my question,
that is what exactly I meant.
Yes.
And I stand by it.
You stand by that
yes.
question. So
that they are not respected.
That they are not respected.
They are not respected. I stand by that.
No, that's definitely fine, Mama. Ngiyakuzwa. Mkhaya,
yeah.
Kunale nkinga lena esibhekene nayo. Abantu abaningi when it comes to your name, ne? Mhlambe bake bathi you are getting old and you are also losing your steam. As some people are saying that. You were usukeka ANC after saying ukuthi it is too corrupt when kutusebenzisane nayo. You formed the ADC.
Yes.
Where is ADC today?
Frankly, I don't know what happened to ADEC. I don't know where it is now.
And it's a space that you will never actually entertain in going
I
back
will
to.
not. And let me tell you something. When people say you have lost esteem, you are too old, okay, I don't know what are they premising that on. You have Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and the last time I checked, I'm 50-something, in the early 50s. And you have Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, you have even the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa. And the last time I checked, I think he's above 70. So really, I don't know where that comes from. So getting old, I don't know what is old, because I've seen old people, real old people. In fact, I've seen even in parliament. So I don't know what you're talking about me. And frankly, I think that is a sexist, a male chauvinistic statement, and it's got to be rejected with the contempt it deserves. I believe that as a South African and as somebody who entered the space of politics not as a career politician, and that is where people don't understand. I stand on principles and I own my truth. When I get to a space where my truth is being challenged, where my principles, I'm being asked to trade off my principles with the truth that I own, of course, I do retreat. In the ANC, I left primarily because I felt, and I still believe, that the ANC betrayed the liberation mission, especially of mentally liberating our people. The majority of those who are in the leadership today, in my view, they suffer from something I call CPDD. That is chronic psychological damage and defeat. When you suffer from CPDD, what you do, you then look at everything from the white man's perspective, without you realizing that you are no longer representing your primary motive forces, the Bantu people. So the ANC, my only challenge with the ANC, which is why I left, I felt that the ANC was leaving the Bantu-speaking people, the black people, the descendants of the Khoisan, the Khoisan San. I felt that the mission, everything that I fought for, the things that I went to jail for, I felt that the ANC was betraying everything that I was taught in the ANC strategy and tactics through the eye of the needle, everything in the ANC about liberating the black Africans in particular. It's in the ANC constitution. Okay, so that's what made me leave the ANC. But then I'm a human being, and I'm not like the ANC. With me, I have a moral reflective capacity. Where I have shortcomings, I admit my mistakes. You know, I'm a reader of Amika Cabral, you know, and you know the famous quote, tell no lies, you know, yes, don't claim easy victories. And I subscribe to that school of thought. In fact, Frantz Fanon and Amika Cabral, they influenced me greatly. So I'm saying to you, yes, I went to form ADEC, but did I know that the whole politics in South Africa is controlled by those who control the means of production? And who are those people? The white people, the Ruperts, the Oppenheimers, and all those people. You cannot in South Africa establish a proper functioning party with all the resources if you are not going to subscribe to what they are dictating. And now, when I, at ADEC, started speaking, advancing a particular language, because those people who were supposed to be the funders of ADEC were now telling me to go and join Cyril Ramaphosa. And I said, no, I'm not going to join Cyril. I don't believe that the current president, the new president of the ANC, when he won in 2017 in December, narrowly won, by the way, narrowly. Remember that Nkosazana and him were neck to neck.
Yes.
So I am saying to narrowly won. Now, all of a sudden, they were telling me about him as a saint. And my experience in the ANC with him was that he's more fatal than Zuma. And I was proven right. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the burning down, to literal burning down of parliament, South African parliament, to ashes under his watch. We had unprecedented, even under apartheid. I was the leader of the NAICO. I was the leader of ADEO in Maritzburg. I have never seen that kind of thing that happened in July here in KwaZulu-Natal, when we had the looting, the shooting, the burning down of buildings, even racism, where our people were being killed, like, you know, execution style and so forth. It was just a crazy period. It happened under Cyril Ramaphosa, no other president in South Africa. The only thing that those people who are saying, I have lost him, they should have listened to me when I told them in the ANC that ANC, you are corrupt, and what is going to happen, you will lose all the metros. And what happened to the ANC? It lost all the metros. As I said, just because I'm a woman, when I say something, it's got to be said by somebody that is wearing pants. I don't know, because I also wear pants, even now I'm wearing. But that's not the point. I'm just saying, when a woman stands up and says something and shakes things up, they tend to become easy targets of all sorts of narratives. I mean, we've seen all sorts of political parties being established and go, but only this Professor Mampele is always made as a point of reference, as if she's the only one who established a political party and then it didn't fail. And people don't understand how difficult the political environment is, especially if you are not a career politician, especially if you are standing on the mission that you had. With Action SA, really, it was a matter of incompatibility. Divorce was going to be imminent. Because clearly I thought that Action SA was going to be I thought it was coming with the correct narrative, and what I was sold and what I experienced within Action SA clearly told me that this is just a black-led party, a black-white party, a black-led party of white people.
Yes.
In terms of thinking, in terms of agenda, in terms of where we are going. And I was tired anyway of having to be told like a child what I have to say and what I have to think. I'm a human being, I'm an intellectual too. So if you are going to think that you are going to just tell me anything and you think I'm going to jump simply because I'm afraid of being labeled, label me if you like. I'm standing on my principles and I'm
And you're not
unfazed.
shaking it.